Oh my God.
Not surprising, though. Not surprising.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome to MLB Live Before Lock, where usually, if I have my lineups built in advance, I don't really have that much stuff that I have to react to and change the lineups around for, but that was not the case today. Somebody in chat already, yeah.
I was just waving my finger like Dikembe. No, 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 no.
I thought you were
How
asking
dare
me to
you?
stop, as if something was a miss or something like that. Other than Brian Wu not pitching today, but in his place, we're going to have Jonathan Diaz starting, who is apparently projected for a 1,000,000,000%
Oh, yeah.
ownership price. So a lot to talk about on the show today. As you guys are watching, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. The U.S. Open, that is going to be teeing off Thursday morning. We've got a promotion running for it, and there's a lot of stuff that you guys should know about it. Most importantly, Eric, is that people could sign up for our PGA Sims weekly max package for $14.95. So less than $15. You're getting it's like a 65% discount on our PGA Sims Max weekly package. So if you were looking to play PGA DFS this week just for the US Open, sign up using the link below. Promo code is already loaded in. You're getting yourself a great discount there. But also, anybody that is a PGA Sim subscriber here at Stochastic that has any PGA win of $100 or more, if you're playing with the Stochastic avatar and you tweet it at us, you're going to be entered into a raffle and you'll have a chance to win a free month of PGA Sim. So you sign up this week for a discounted weekly package and give yourself a chance to get another month on top of that. So you get one discounted package for a week, and that could parlay itself into it ends up being 5 weeks of PGA Sim. So check it out. Sign up using the link below. Are you going to be doing any PGA content this week, by the way, Eric?
Oh, I sure am going to be doing a live before lock on playback with the one, the only downside of me, Forsaken. Y'all know him as Jesse over on X on Twitter. He's a crazy Canadian, and he plays the highest stakes PGA every single week, and he has somehow, some way finagled himself into my life. And we talk PGA DFS. We're going to be getting you ready for Pinehurst #2, a golf course that back in '99, whenever ago, then I was at it again. I've been to both of the U.S. Opens there previous, so, or not the Martin Keimer one. I haven't seen the remodel, but I absolutely love this golf course, love this tournament. Going to be a really, really fun thing to break down.
Yeah, and I've been doing really well in PGA DFS lately, especially this year. I had a very close hit in the $5. I ended up coming in towards the top of the tournament. I came in 12th place. It wasn't quite able to come in first place or anything like that, but still, it was good enough. I ended up making a couple $1,000s in the tournament last week, and I'm doing nothing other than just running our sims, uploading the lineup. So go check it out, guys. Less than $15 to sign up for our PGA Sims Max weekly package. You don't even really need to know anything about golf. Just build some lineups in the contest generator, sim them, upload them. I guarantee you it's better lineups than you would otherwise normally be playing for PGA DFS. And then Eric's got his video, like he said, or show he's going to be doing on playback Wednesday night with Jesse. Ben Roz is going to be doing a show tomorrow. I'll be putting out some sim stuff on Twitter tomorrow. So lots of U.S. Open coverage. But before we get then, I know people are here to listen to us talk about baseball. You're probably going to have some questions for us. And if you guys do have any questions for us, throw them into the YouTube chat or throw them into the Discord channel. But instead of talking about the spend up pitchers to start, Eric, I think we have to talk about Jonathan Diaz because we have this Brian Wu situation. He's scratched. And then I'm like, all right, Diaz is 4K. I'm sure he's in play, but I didn't put that much thought into it. And then we get projections, ownership updates. He is projected now, Eric, for 52% ownership over on DraftKings. What are your first thoughts about the Jonathan Diaz side of the slate now? The salaries at the ownership, just what's your take on Jonathan Diaz as an option?
Shit. He's 4K. And if you've played MLB DFS, when you get a 4K player like this, it allows for you to get to any stack that you want. Period. End of story. You can pair him with Wheeler. You can pair him with Skeens. You can pair him with whomever you prefer on the top end. And you can kind of bypass a lot of the 7K, 6K range that you'd generally be making some kind of a tournament case for. But Diaz at 4K, I was going through some of his numbers because he pitched for the Angels the last 3 seasons. Let me tell you, it was not pretty. We're talking 5.80 xFIP, 5 xFIP, 8.57 xFIP in 21 through 23. So it has not been pretty for him at the big league level so far. But In AAA, it would seem like Seattle's found a little something, and then it's the best possible matchup, the worst WRC plus in the Chicago White Sox against right-handed pitching in all of baseball, sub 80. And then he's 4K, which allows for you to do whatever you want. It seems as though there's decent enough strikeout stuff. He's not walking as many guys here at the minor league level this season. So as you're going through some of his numbers, it looks like it's improved. Now, do I expect him to be like a 9K per, he's at 9.09 Ks per nine. He's a sub 3 ERA guy at AAA right now. 4.19 xFIP is much improved from what we've seen at the big league level, but it is a great ballpark and a great matchup, and that is really good at 4K. What are you thinking, Craig?
It's going to be hard to get away from him considering the price point. Now, I do think there's a lot of merit to stacking against him as well, obviously, because of the fact that he is a not all that great pitcher that is 4K and is particularly from north of 50% ownership. So, with that being the case here, and I just realized I was looking at a Jonathan Diaz player page for the wrong Jonathan Diaz to read off his stats. There are multiple Jonathan Diaz's in the major leagues. There have been over the course of time. So I want to make sure that I'm reading off the correct numbers here. But yeah, most importantly to me, cash games, you're absolutely playing Jonathan Diaz. There's zero doubt about it. For tournaments, you're also playing him, but I think it makes a whole lot of sense to be stacking against him at least a little bit to be getting some kind of leverage. And I'm going to really strongly have to consider stacking the White Sox in single entry as well, because Diaz could be 70% owned in single entry tonight.
Yep, and he could also put up 10 and be remotely optimal. Obviously, you have to get the other pitching combinations right, but what he gives you is access to top-tier stacks. He gives you exposure to every Yankee bat. He gives you exposure to anybody you want to be paying up for one-offs. He gives you exposure to all of that. And then, yeah, in cash games, you're just playing him in Skeens. I don't see any reason not to. 7.5 strikeout prop, highest that we've got on the board. Paul Skeens getting a pretty good matchup, north of a 23% K rate do the St. Louis Cardinals have against right-handed pitching. He's a phenomenal option. I think in cash games, it just builds itself. But for tournaments, there's definitely merit to getting to the White Sox, no doubt about it. I stacked him up yesterday ad nauseum and some stuff, and it didn't go as well. Obviously, Luis Robert was the man, continues to be, but I will be right there with you, I think, in single entry, where White Sox are probably going to be, if not my stack, I'm going to find it tough to get away from Diaz. So it's going to be one or the other.
Another thing that this is going to impact is stacks. You could pay up for whatever stack you want to. And so now, for instance, like I'm looking at my best stacks in the Sims, or if I'm looking at our top stacks tool, you just don't have to worry about the points per dollar numbers of some of these stacks. Because if you want to go and pay up for the Yankees offense, which is expected to be somewhat popular today, but nothing crazy because it was slated this size. We don't have no offenses on DraftKings are projected for double-digit ownership. Really, the only drawback to stacking the Yankees was, what's the opportunity cost with their price point? Now you just play Diaz with them, and there isn't really any. It's very easy to fit in any expensive stacks.
Yep, that's what I said. I'm with you.
So I'm going to be getting to, I assume, more of the high-priced stacks here. And one other thing I want to ask you, and like I said, instead of just going top to bottom, we'll go bottom top, considering which we're not unaccustomed to, but it's going to also help us to really figure out what we want to do with pitcher based around the most popular option. Usually the most popular pitchers are the most expensive, but is there any viable pivot you see for cheap off of Diaz?
No, I'm not playing Brent Suter. Are you kidding me? No. And then Vasquez, no. I guess Vasquez, I hate this guy. I really do. I don't think we need to play Randy Vasquez. I would rather just go to the floor with Diaz. There appears to be some sort of strikeout upside potentially with him. Varland against Colorado and Vasquez, they get Oakland and Colorado respectively. I just really, really, really don't want to play 22% Louis Varland. I know how bad this guy is. And there's a reason a lot of these books are just hanging this at 14.5 pitching outs and making you decide if you want to be paying eternal juice to try to take less on that. A lot of places. FanDuel's the only one, I think, holding up a 15.5. So I bet that this morning on less. And then Zach Wheeler, he's way at the top end. I'm trying to think of it's not all that difficult to pair him with Diaz and feel good about your life. Like, I don't find a reason that I want to be playing 22% Varlin this way. And then Randy Vasquez, no thank you.
I don't mind Varland. I don't like it's kind of the same as how I felt yesterday
Yep.
about the spot where we ended up. How many fantasy points did Paddock end up scoring? I know Paddock pitched really well yesterday, but I feel the same with Varland as I do with Paddock yesterday. Whereas I'm going to have him in lineups, but I'm not going to have as much of him as the field. Like he's a very cheap pitcher going up against the Colorado Rockies. And I do think that if you're going to have lineups that don't have Diaz in them, that's just the most logical way for me to save some salary. And he's also like a third the ownership of Diaz now because Diaz is pulling in so much of the field.
Yep. With you. Not going to be fading these guys in 150 lineups, but I'm definitely going to have under the field on both of them.
So let's talk about the 7K range now. We've talked. Is there anybody else who's below 7K that is of interest to you for any reason?
Nope. It would be Varlin, Vasquez. They're both pulling ownership. It's just for me, I kind of was planning on being underweight to them as is. I don't find it terribly hard to get up to Paul Skeens. I guess for me, like, I'm very curious to see where Zach Wheeler's ownership lands now that we have a 52% owned 4K pitcher, because Skeens and Wheeler could just destroy this thing. It is going to be really fun.
And we did get a comment in the chat, which I don't think is a crazy one at all. I understand why, but we've got a question here from Beers Den 1985 who said, why is a shit pitcher showing up so much in the Sims? Because he's super cheap and has a good matchup.
Yep, there's that. I mean, there's a 7K pitcher that I have 28% of that we're going to talk about. I'm going to have less as I rerun everything with Jonathan Diaz. I did my first run with it. Still got, let's see, what did I finish up with? Let me save this. 18% of him. So yeah, 28% I had before. Now I'm down to 18%. We'll see where it lands, but there's a 7K option that I really, really like today.
All right. So let's talk now about the 7K pitchers. And I assume the guy who it is that you really like a lot. Can I try to guess who it is?
It's not the popular guy.
Ooh, okay. So pitchers in the 7K range. And so he's between 7,000 and 7,900, correct?
Yes, he is.
All right. So let's do some process of elimination here. I know it's not Dane Dunning.
Sure is not.
Okay. I know it's not James Paxton.
Sure is not.
I know it's not Cal Quantrill or Carlos Rodriguez. Oh, Carlos Rodriguez is below. So it's not Cal Quantrill.
Nope. None of those guys.
It's not Tyler McGill. So we've got choices here. It's either going to be Drew Thorpe, Tristan. I'm going to say Thorpe.
It's definitely Drew Thorpe. I think Drew Thorpe is an awesome, awesome tournament play. I wanted to see where Books ended up putting his K prop. Do you know what it is by any chance right off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, I don't. I do think he's, yeah, but what is it? I assume you probably know.
5.5. 5.5, like plus 110 to the over. Again, this is a kid that is 23 years old, getting called up for the first time. He's only ever been in AA ball, but I want to point out one thing. I don't know the last time that I pulled up Fangraphs, and it kind of caught me off guard last night. So then I tried to find pitching clips of him, tried to figure out other stuff with him. Drew Thorpe has a 70/70 graded changeup. This thing is disturbingly good. They're calling it one of the better changeups, period. You go back to his Cal Poly days, and there was like some coach speak being like, yep, we wish he could throw that all the time because his fastball, no velocity, slider, curveball, whatever. It's just kind of like other offerings, but he gets ahead and counts, and he throws this changeup. It looks borderline unhittable. At AA, 3.35 xFIP isn't going to wow you. Like, that would be phenomenal at the big league level, but 1.82 xFIP with the New York AA system last season. Ridiculous stuff in his 5 starts there. Got called up from A-ball pretty quickly there for a prospect that, for all intents and purposes, he was highly graded 2022 second rounder, but that was a quick ascension. And now the White Sox, they're trying to make all of these pitchers look appealing. Like the White Sox, the number one valuation, they need to try to make every pitcher as valuable looking as humanly possible. And Drew Thorpe has a very, very good offering where if it's that good and plays this well at the big league level, there's trade bait for him. There's trade bait, obviously, for Garrett Crochet already attached to the Padres. The White Sox are so many pieces away from being competitive that if they can make a kid like Drew Thorpe really shine here, this is the best spot to bring him out. Seattle, #1 against strikeouts against righties. Drew Thorpe has an offering that I think might be borderline unhittable. it's a 5% play that just should be higher owned.
Yeah, he's really interesting because I can't remember a pitcher who is considered a prospect as a one pitch pitcher, and that one pitch was a changeup. So there isn't really that much of a baseline for him in terms of a comp or anything like that. I mean, maybe something like right-handed Burley or something like that from way back in the day. But I don't really know what to expect out of him. But like you said, he's very low owned. He's fairly cheap and he is a good matchup. And that in itself could be enough reason to at least draw some interest to him. He's an unknown, and that at least makes him appealing in large field tournaments. Not a priority for me by any means, but I could understand getting to him.
Remember when Liddy was all over Braxton Garrett? Sean V citing something from 2 weeks ago on like a 5-game slate. Really great stuff, Sean. Really appreciate you.
Anything else that you like in the 7K range here?
Not really. I mean, Tyler McGill's showing up in some lineups. It's Miami. It's a weirdly low total. Why is this total 7.5? Like, why is this? I don't know. Tyler McGill has not been all that impressive. Neither has Jesus Luzardo. I guess this is more just an example. Like, we're just making fun of the Mets and Miami offenses and how ridiculous they've been at times. But it's a weirdly low total for me there. I'm not sure what to make of it, but McGill showing up in 15% of my lineups. He's just fine. But ownership's already there on him. So only one that I'm over on Skeens, and I'm over on Wheeler because now we have a 4K piece. I don't have to go as much to the middle ground, but I want to just point out Drew Thorpe is such an unknown, and we have seen much worse pitchers with much worse offerings rack up strikeouts against Seattle. You're in Seattle, the best spot you could possibly make your debut.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening with him in general, though. And I think you'll agree with this. Outside of taking, some shots maybe on Thorpe or something like that, I'm also with you. I don't really like Tyler McGill at his ownership. This is a slate where most of my lineup stars and scrubs at pitcher.
Stars and scrubs, 100% with you, except for Randy Vasquez and Louis Varland I'm under on as well. So those scrubs, not the right scrubs, I would suppose.
So let's talk about the 8K range where nobody's getting ownership. And by nobody getting ownership, I mean of the pitchers that are priced 8,000 to 8,600. There's nobody from 8,600 to 9,100. Brian Wu did occupy that territory, but he's not pitching anymore today. The most popular pitcher, Jesus Luzardo, is 6% owned against the Mets. Everybody else, 3% owned or less in this 8K range. Eric, I don't like anything of these pitchers.
I'm going to take shots on Luzardo purely because I'm mystified by the total. It, for all intents and purposes, should have been a bet for me last night, and I still didn't like it. It was just like, oh, you definitely should like the over here. I don't know what to make of it. It hasn't budged at all, and the over is like plus 100 at ESPN. Like, this is juiced towards the under, so I'm going to take shots on Luzardo just because they're projecting something that I'm just not. We know Luzardo has had strikeout stuff in the past, but I'm very, very uncomfortable with it, but I have 12% of him.
There's some guys like if I had to roster one guy in this pricing range, it would be Luzardo. But for the majority of our audience that's going to be playing 1, 2, 3
don't
lineups,
play Luzardo.
He wouldn't be in those.
No.
So low priority play for me. And like I said, I mean the way that I really want to be structuring my lineups, Jonathan Diaz on the low end, maybe some Louis Varland, and then paying up for some of the studs that we're going to be getting to here in a second there. Because if we're paying up a pitcher today, you say Kikuchi is $9,100 on the road against Milwaukee. Not all that much interest for me. Ronel Blanco, who I don't know why this is the case. Ronel Blanco, apparently there's some sort of rule on DraftKings and FanDuel. If he's pitching, he must be one of the most expensive pitchers on the slate for whatever reason. But Ronel Blanco at $9,700, no thank you. Paul Skeens, though, $9,400 against the Cardinals. He is 33% owned. Zach Wheeler, $10,500 against the Boston Red Sox. He is 19% owned. Eric, what are you going to do with Paul Skeens as massive chalk? And then also Zach Wheeler is a potential option to get off of him to get to slightly lower ownership at pitcher.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Wheeler's so good. 6.5K prop, 7.5 though for Skeens. Talked about it earlier. If you're playing cash, you're playing Paul Skeens, you're playing Diaz, and you're moving on with your life. For tournaments, I'm going to still be overweight, I think, to Paul Skeens. St. Louis, we're seeing them strike out quite a bit against righties this season, 23.7% clip. You go through individual hitters here that we have for today, and it just looks pretty darn good, I would say, anytime you have Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Gorman and Matt Carpenter. And I mean, we're just going to still see some strikeouts here on the St. Louis side of things. I gotta like Paul Skeens. The talent is there. He's the highest, like most regarded pitching prospect we've had in forever. And as I said, Goldie and Gorman going 3-4, both north of 29% K rates. You get Matt Carpenter batting 7th in that lineup. He's been a strikeout machine too. There's no reason to look at this and not think Paul Skeens is the best pitching option straight up from a fantasy perspective on the board today.
Yeah, and like you said, and I mean, I don't think we're telling anybody who's in the know on MLB DFS anything crazy here. The cash game combination, which Eric already said there, it's Paul Skeens and Jonathan Diaz. It's about as easy to build a cash game pitching combination as you're going to have on any slate for the entire year. I mean, Diaz is 52% owned. Skeens is 33% owned. There's other pitchers who are somewhat popular, but nowhere near the popularity of these two. And the other thing to consider, too, is why Skeens over Zach Wheeler. Well, Skeens is pitching against the St. Louis Cardinals. Wheeler is pitching against the Boston Red Sox. I do want to ask you one kind of fun question related to Paul Skeens, though. How many pitchers do you think are better than him right now?
That's a great question. I can pull up my model right now and let you know who I think is better than him and pull up everything that I got here. I'm worried though, because every time I do this, Jordan Klein is over there probably sweating bullets being like, is Eric's camera going to go out here again? We're going to find out. I have 4 pitchers better than Paul Skeens in baseball right now. Zach Wheeler is actually one of them, but it's a Boston matchup. It's a little bit different. I have Chris Sale valued a little bit better at the moment as well, so that's interesting. I have Cease. He's a little bit more of a known quantity, so I think that's probably what's going on with that one. And then Mason Miller as a reliever. I've got him valued above Paul Skeens at the moment.
We got a question in, so for me, I mean, all right, let me look at the Cy Young odds.
Yeah, I've got legitimately only 4 pitchers that I think are better. Now, obviously, Mason Miller is a closer, but he is outrageous. So it is what it is. I'm just going straight off of the sheet. Skubal, I have as 6th. I have Skubal behind Skeens.
Skubal's been ridiculously good this year. So is Corbin Burns.
And he's the runaway favorite
just because I feel there's a little bit more reliability. We've got a little bit more data there. My intuition, though, is that Skeens is probably just about as good as anybody at the moment. But pitchers that would take over him, those guys, Wheeler. But yeah, I mean, there's really not that many. Dude's been ridiculously good so far. And also for DFS purposes, just the strikeout stuff that we're getting out of him as well. We got a question in Discord from Einstein. He wants to know, for single entry, is Diaz a free square, Eric?
No, it's baseball. It's MLB DFS. What he is he has access to anything, and like your offense can definitely pick up the slack for 10 or 12. It is very hard when you talk about like a Wheeler Skeens combination to get to some of those same offenses. A 4K guy gets you everything you want. So it's kind of the ensemble in the portfolio, the collective whole of your lineup. That's why we're seeing the popularity where it is. But he is by no means a free square. This is not NBA DFS.
I mean, I'm considering stacking against him in single entry, and it's not because I don't think he's the best points per dollar pitching option in slate. He absolutely is, but he's also a pitcher who has been terrible in the time he's been in the big leagues, and he's going to be maybe 70% owned in single entry. So I think there's leverage to stacking against him. If I don't stack against him, I'm playing him, though, and just playing some other offense that I don't think is going to have enough ownership. But just because of how popular he is and how much that matters in MLB DFS, no, I don't consider him a free square in single entry.
With you.
Anything else you want to add about these high-end pitchers, Eric? How much are you prioritizing Skeens over Wheeler?
We'll let you know here in a second. I'm not done sorting everything. So it's going to probably be still pretty considerable. Like we're talking maybe 20, 25% Wheeler, 40, 45% Skeens at least, maybe more.
So for me, I strongly prefer Skeens to Wheeler. I like him a lot more.
Yeah. So, I mean, when I'm saying strongly, I mean 2.5 to 1, basically 2 to 1, definitely going to be north of that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at our data, we have Paul Skeens projected a decent amount better than Zach Wheeler. And by a decent amount better, I don't mean that he's projected for like 5 more fantasy points than him or anything, but we've got him project for more fantasy points. We got him with a 3% chance better to be a top scorer, to be a top scoring pitcher on the slate. And in addition to that, he's quite a bit cheaper. And I know that salary isn't the end all be all on this slate because we've got the Diaz piece, but still, the $1,100, it's going to matter in some lineups. So Paul Skeens, I'll have a lot more exposure to him than Zach Wheeler. One final call, Eric. Anything you want to add about pitchers on DK? If not, we will look at the FanDuel side of things for pitching.
So yesterday, I mean, I was talking about, I'm like, Colin Ray, maybe we take some shots on that. And I was kind of like sitting there holding the bag at the end where I'm like, maybe should have done something there. But what do you think about Kikuchi? Milwaukee hasn't been as good against lefties. And I mean, the interest in Kikuchi has waned off considerably after his hot start, 3.2% ownership on him. I think Milwaukee's going to actually pull quite a bit of ownership. I'm looking at some other spots where Milwaukee was a little bit more popular than they are in our data. I'm going to stack up Milwaukee. I do think when you have Rhys Hoskins back and when you have the Contreras catching option, when you have Willy Adames, Gary Sanchez as another catching option on the cheap, I think that they're pretty interesting to stack up as a contrarian piece. But Kikuchi has at least shown strikeout upside even in his struggling years. I think I want to take a couple of shots on him, still sitting at 23.7% K rate. Obviously, he pales in comparison to Skeens, pales in comparison to Zach Wheeler, but in the sake of getting a little bit different, any use at Kikuchi?
Not for me on this. Like, I think that you're different enough by doing stuff like playing Wheeler instead of Skeens. I don't have that much of a desire to play Yusei Kikuchi. With that said, I don't like the ownership going to Milwaukee against him either. And another thing too is like Milwaukee's somewhat expensive, Kikuchi's somewhat expensive. Like I don't think one side of the game has to be good for DFS.
Okay, that's fair enough. It was just yesterday, I wish I had played a little bit of Ray in hindsight, even though he sucks. And, you know, he went 7 innings, did whatever, and you didn't necessarily need him. It was definitely going to be a slate where after Paddock's start, you were going to want Chris Paddock. But I was going to always jam Cease on the last slate. I had a lot of Gilbert. He was great until it wasn't. And then, yeah, I think that it was just for the sake of being different. Paul Skeens, if something happens, obviously we assume him to be one of the best pitchers in baseball. I just said he's like number 5 for me, but I am still going to sit there and maybe get to a little bit of Kikuchi for the sake of getting different.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing about last night's slate, if you played a pitcher, they probably pitched well. The only offense that did anything last night was the Seattle Mariners, and it wasn't even until the 8. So the Mariners put up 8 runs yesterday, which it was good for me, right? My lineups were shit. And then all of a sudden it's like, how come my lineups are good all of a sudden? It was because Cal Raleigh hit that, walk-off grand slam last night. But any offense you played last night probably sucked unless it was the Mariners. Any pitcher you played was almost certainly good because that was just how there was no run scored basically the entire slate. The Mariners had 0 runs going into the 8th inning. They finished with 8 runs, and that was the only team that scored 5+ runs, if I remember correctly.
Jay Kuda tweeted this out. It's one of the wilder. I love baseball because I love numbers and I love things that it's just like, whoa, that is insane. The White Sox, they were 0-4 this season when they hit multiple home runs in an away game. And then they were up 4-0 in the 8th with 2 home runs. They end up losing 8-4, like the most unlikely, ridiculous thing possible. If you had a Seattle -1.5 ticket, you should probably buy a lottery ticket because things are going your way.
Yeah, it was a fortuitous way for the game to end, especially considering what the score was in the later stages. Couple questions here. One is from Einsteinium, who Einstein just asked, was Diaz a free square in single entry? Now he's asking, is there any merit to paying up for Skeens and Wheeler than stacking the White Sox in single entry? Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards doing right now.
Same.
Luke Stone left us a super chat. He says, with so much of the field playing Diaz, is it a good move to pay down with the bats and then go to Skeens and Wheeler together in the same lineup on DK? Yeah, I think the team you probably want to be stacking in that scenario is either like the Rockies against Louis Varland or the White Sox against Diaz.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking at doing for single entry, is putting the 2 of them together and going White Sox. So I think that is going to be what I do in single entry.
Yeah, and then Dan06712 in the playback chat said that catcher from Seattle saved my night. Yeah, me too. A big thing about the Cal Raleigh thing that also kind of helped, because I had Cal Raleigh, I think it was in 35%. of my
Jeez.
lineups was that Yanier Diaz not playing yesterday, because Diaz was
Oh
going to
yeah.
be my most rostered catcher. Then I got to a lot of Cal Rayleigh instead. So yeah, it was a weird slate.
I
Weird
had
slate for the
24%
Blackhawks.
Elias Diaz, who got pulled after hitting into a
Oh
double
yeah.
play in the first inning. Good times.
Yeah, that was no good for Eric based on our group text.
Very
Shout out to
bad.
Chris Williams, who gifted out 5 YouTube memberships. As always, Chris, we appreciate you. For anybody else that is looking to support the channel, simply like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel. It really does help us out a whole bunch, and we do appreciate it. Let's move to the FanDuel pitching, Eric, which is going to be different than DraftKings simply because there is no Jonathan Diaz in the FanDuel player pool. So with him not in there, ownership looks crazy, crazy different. There's 3 pitchers on FanDuel that are projected for double-digit ownership. It is Tyler McGill at $9,200 against the Marlins. He's projected for 11% ownership. You can miss me on that. Zach Wheeler is 16% owned on the road against the Boston Red Sox. I can't believe Paul Skeens is not more popular on FanDuel. $10,500 against the Cardinals. He's 18.7% owned, whereas Zach Wheeler is 16.2% owned. Yeah, I would much prefer Paul Skeens to Zach Wheeler, especially when they're the exact same or nearly the exact same ownership.
Yeah, it's insane. Paul Skeens is definitely who I would be playing if I were playing on FanDuel today. I do like seeing Drew Thorpe. It's a little weird to see 8% that he's the 5th highest owned pitcher there, but still 6,700. I would like him more than Louis Varland, who's a little bit more popular. Paul Skeens is definitely the priority for FanDuel.
That's how I see it on FanDuel as well. He's $10,500, 18.7% ownership. Makes him the most popular pitcher on FanDuel, but not in a way that's problematic or anything like that. So yeah, if I'm paying up, give me Paul Skeens. If I'm going to go cheap though, kind of similarly, I'm surprised Louis Varland isn't picking up more ownership on FanDuel, Eric. When you look at his ownership on DraftKings, he's only $6,600 on FanDuel. And you look at how they've revamped the pricing on FanDuel this year, where kind of all of the pitchers just gravitate towards being more expensive. Like Tyler McGill is $9,200 on FanDuel, and he's picking up a decent amount of ownership. Give me Louis Varland if I'm saving salary on FanDuel at home against the Colorado Rockies, single-digit ownership for $6,600. He is the 4th most inexpensive pitcher on all of FanDuel. The only pitchers projected for less ownership are Jose Suarez, Carlos Rodriguez, Nick Martinez, and then Louis Varland. So if I'm saving salary, I like Varland. How about yourself? Varland, somebody else to save salary with? Where are you looking?
Yeah, wouldn't be going to Varland on it. Be going to Drew Thorpe. That would still be my priority guy, I think, on the cheap end. Looking at 5.5K prop, a little bit higher in terms of pitching outs, just comparing sportsbook odds to some of these specific outcomes. And I think Louis Varland sucks. So I promise there are Minnesota Twins pitchers that I like. It just would appear that they never are on slates that I cover MLB DFS. So that's fun. Drew Thorpe, I'm going to be firing up though.
And then Chris Williams said that he thinks that YouTube is acting up. Said he paid for 5 YouTube memberships, but only gifted 3. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why that would be the case. Jordan, is there anything we could do about that? Do you know? Huh. Weird, weird, weird. Apologies, Chris. I don't know why that happened, but it's not anything that we could control. It's weird. Well, maybe Jordan, if you can, maybe you could activate memberships for 2 random people that are active in the YouTube chat. Maybe that will absolve the issue. So maybe that'll end up helping there. Yeah. Gotcha. I wonder if just everybody that was available for a membership that had it turned on already had one. Is that a possibility? I don't know. But anyway, let's build some lineups in the lineup generator. We'll talk about some stacks as we go here as well. So pull up DraftKings, Jordan, and I know that usually we build balanced lineups for slates of this size. Let's build contrarian lineups. So just because we have such pronounced chalk in Diaz, I'm curious what happens if we build contrarian lineups. Does it get us away from Diaz? Does it give us Diaz, but with other, maybe say less popular stacks? I'm interested to see what happens if we build contrarian lineups.
Let's take a look. It's
All right,
in
first things first. Yeah, so it actually just didn't give us as much of Diaz. Where is he? We got, yeah, so McGill, Skeens, Wheeler, most roster pitchers. We did get to some of Diaz still, but only 20% of him. So if you are looking to build really contrarian lineups, just 20% of Diaz ended up showing up in the lineup generator. Is that a consolation you're willing to make, Eric? Are you okay with being 20% of Diaz in single or in large field tournaments if you're playing a bunch? Well, like we said, we did intentionally try to build contrarian lineups here.
Yep, I intentionally did that. Well done by you. Joey Ortiz scratched. All right, we'll take a look at that. But I am, well, that sucks because that is actually going to matter for me. Okay. I do not want to have just 20% of Diaz there. I would be, he's currently in 52% of my line. I'm like hands with the field.
Yeah. So for this, keep in mind, I'm sure if we built chalky lineups, he would show up in like nearly everything. But just as a fun exercise, built contrarian lineups, see where he would end up showing up here. We did get to more of Skeens than Wheeler. We ended up getting to a good amount of McGill here. Go to the stack exposures, Jordan. Let's see what the stacks are looking like. Arizona 1, Minnesota, San Diego, Cleveland, KC, LA, Cincinnati, the Yankees, but I should say the Los Angeles Angels there, not the Los Angeles Dodgers. So fairly spread out here at our stacks, with the one difference being Arizona showing up in nearly half of our lineups here, Eric. Is that a team you're getting a lot of? Because lineup generator is just jamming them here.
No, I'm not getting to 47% of them. I'm getting to 6% of them. So that's fun.
Yeah, I have 5% of the Arizona Diamondbacks, less than the 47% there. For large field tournaments, which is the team you have the most exposure to?
Oh boy. The New York Yankees. Hello.
Same.
Give me all the New York Yankees. We have a 4K pitcher who showed up, and as such, I don't see any reason. If you're doing any of the free squares that exist over here on planet Earth as well, you can turn Aaron Judge home runs into 350 or better, plus 350 or better. So over at Underdog, there's a ton of them. Over at Prize Picks, there's a ton of them. I would be utilizing all of those together and just targeting some of this righty power. I just want to get to everybody. This is a fully operational Death Star going up against Brady Singer, and say whatever you want. This is the best offense in baseball so far this season, and against righties, nearly 130 WRC plus. Aaron Judge is having like the best month in the history of baseball. Had the night off yesterday to kind of revamp and chill, but how about a 454 X ISO against righties this season in 231 plate appearances? That sounds pretty interesting to me. You've got Brady Singer giving up lefty power, 229 expected ISO against that as well. So it's been problematic. So you want to fire up Soto, you want to fire up Verdugo and Rizzo and Wells and out there catching. You also want to have against the righties. It doesn't matter. The righties are phenomenal, and Volpe and Judge, Stanton, just stack up the Yankees.
We got, well, I'll ask you for single entry. I uploaded my lineups. Gonna have to make some changes because Ortiz got scratched, but I am gonna play the White Sox in single entry. It's not a team I have any amount of confidence in. Just the ownership on Diaz is so insane that I'm playing the White Sox in single entry.
And I don't know if he will get to 50-ish%. I would say that people will look at the last 3 years of him in the bigs with the Angels and be a little bit trepidatious. He's looked better at AAA. It's a great ballpark, great matchup. So maybe that does win the day, and the fact that he's 4K. But I still like getting to them. Even if he's 35, 40% owned, there's a lot of merit to having the offense on the other side, because from all intents and purposes, it has not been kind to him. And the White Sox going up against lefties, they have definitely looked a little bit different. So you're switching from Wu as a righty to Diaz as a lefty. White Sox, 77 WRC plus is not good there, but 121 ISO. You got Luis Robert back for a majority of that sample size, and that can kind of win the day for a lot of this. And Julk's now leading off here. He's been good here for a while.
And we got a question in Discord. This is coming to us from, where was it? Here it is. Sniffs1234 said, Cal Quantrill's been decent so far this year. Is that getting us off of Minnesota? Eric, you're a Minnesota fan, all things Minnesota sports. Are you going to be stacking the Twins up today, or Cal Quantrill, who admittedly has been decent this year, has he been good enough for you to not want to roster the Minnesota Twins?
No, I'll still have some Minnesota Twins here. Also, pretty favorable hitting conditions, it would appear, up in Minneapolis when blowing out a little bit. And then you have power. Trevor Larnach, 233 expected ISO against righties. Royce Lewis has homered in 407 games, 488 expected ISO. That's not going to stay that high as we accumulate sample size. He has all of 18 plate attempts against righties, but Kepler, 169 expected ISO. Jeffers, 223 expected ISO. There's still some decent options there. Buxton's having a horrible year against righties, so that's kind of wild. But a 211 expected ISO still in the 8-hole with Alex Kirilloff. You can basically stack them up 1 through 9 and feel all right about it.
Yeah, I've got, where do I have Minnesota? I had a little bit more of them earlier, but I'm about even with the field. The field has 5.8% of Minnesota. I've got 5% stacks of them. As far as Cal Quantrill goes, like, I mean, obviously I don't have like 15 or 20% of the Minnesota Twins to stack or anything like that. Cal Quantrill, though, he was decent a few years ago. He was terrible last year, though. He had a 5.24 ERA, a 5.85 expected ERA. Projection models are also really down on him this year. Depth chart has him at the 5.25 ERA the rest of the season. Steamer has him at 5.57. The bat has him at 5.44. Zips is the most bullish on him, and that means he has a 4.92 expected ERA. So going forward, I don't think Cal Quantrill is going to be great. But with that said, I mean, I've got 5% of the Twins. It's just a team to me.
It's just a team, or yeah. I had more. I'm probably going to have less when it's finished.
So let's build some FanDuel lineups now, Jordan. We'll build the FanDuel lineups in here and see what pops up. And let's do balance lineups for FanDuel because there is no Diaz chalk to consider. So it's going to be a totally different outlook for the FanDuel side of things. Just save a bunch of these lineups and we'll see what we end up getting to. And then while we are doing that also, I'm going to refresh our data, see what the updated ownership looks like. And I'll try to figure out what is the best looking stack to be playing on FanDuel. Way different scenario, like I said, where we don't have Diaz to consider. Instead, though, Paul Skeens is in 42% of our lineup, Zach Wheeler in 25%. So that right away makes up, 4/5 of our lineups. So not too much other pitcher exposure to go around, but scroll down, Jordan. Let's see what else we got. Wheeler, McGill in some lineups, and then, a couple Louis Varland, but primarily Paul Skeens, then some Zach Wheeler as well, then some punts on, McGill isn't really a punt on FanDuel, but Louis Varland is. So Skeens on FanDuel, that's where Eric and I landed as well. We really, really do like Skeens, our favorite overall pitching option for FanDuel. Stacks on FanDuel, Arizona, Minnesota, those are our top two. And then the next tier of teams is Toronto Blue Jays as well as the Cincinnati Reds. If you're building one stack for single entry on FanDuel, Eric, where would you go? Because obviously the White Sox, not a team you consider. There's no, on FanDuel with no leverage to be considered, there's no reason to play them on FanDuel.
Nope, none. And also, it depends on what you're doing with pitcher, because I did say there's the Drew Thorpe character that I do like on the bottom end. I would like the Yankees even a little bit. I would almost like make them a priority stack with Drew Thorpe, but I'd more than likely be playing Skeens. You can still kind of make that work over on FanDuel as I'm looking at it, but I'd still be prioritizing the Yankees.
Yankees would be one for me. Another one that I think is a pretty strong consideration. The Guardians going up against Nick Martinez. Yep. Really favorable hitters park in Cincinnati. And for whatever reason, Cleveland's only 3% owned over on FanDuel. So I do have them with the 4th overall highest odds to be the top scoring team. So I really like Cleveland as a contrarian stack over on FanDuel. That's one that I really like for single entry purposes. I'll go back to the player exposures, Jordan. Just want to highlight some of the hitters we're getting the most of. Ketel Marte, Max Kepler, Willie Castro, Randall Grichuk, Royce Lewis, Christian Walker, Eugenio Suarez, Lourdes Gurriel. So those are what the hitters we're getting the most exposure to over on FanDuel are. So that's going to do it for us talking about the lineup generator. If you guys want to sign up for it, link below in the description box. And then, of course, if you're playing the U.S. Open, PGA DFS this weekend, if you missed what we said at the top of the show, there's a sale going on. $14.95. You're going to get a week of our PGA Sims Max package, which covers not only the main slate, but we also cover all of the showdown slates. So you get the Thursday main slate, Thursday showdown, Friday showdown, Saturday showdown, Sunday showdown. And then also, if you're playing with the Stochastic Avatar and you have any win of $100 as a PGA Sim subscriber this week, that could be for the main slate or for any of the showdowns, just tweet it at us at StochasticHOF, and you get entered into a raffle. We're going to select 3 people to win a free month of the Stochastic Sim. So you could sign up for 1 week at $14.95, and you can end up getting an entire month added onto that afterwards. So go check that out if you guys are going to be playing. And link below in the YouTube description box already has the promo code loaded into it. Promo code is Pinehurst. So if you go over to the site and you sign up, type in Pinehurst, all capital letters, but promo code's already loaded into the YouTube description box. Let's talk about the rest of the stacks we like here, Eric. And there are, let's see, how many teams now? None. There are no teams projected for double-digit ownership on DraftKings. We've got 3 teams with 8+% projected ownership. Those are the Los Angeles Dodgers, the New York Yankees, the Cincinnati Reds. Both of us have kind of indicated we like the Yankees the most. In large field tournaments, Eric, the Yankees are the team I have the most exposure to. I've got about 15% of them as a stack.
Love it. The ownership should be higher than what it is. They have the top stack there. I'm with you with Cleveland too. It's a team that I routinely stack up. I will continue to routinely stack up. Nick Martinez should be the guy eating the bulk of the innings here. That is useful, I would say, to some of these lefties, specifically Jose Ramirez, Josh Naylor. David Fry's been awesome this season, 381 xWOBA. Steven Kwan is on a crazy hit streak. Everything looks good across the board here for the Guardians, especially the top of that lineup. Kyle Manzardo, he gives you some kind of cheap relief if you're trying to play like the Wheeler Skeens combination. I don't mind getting to him instead of Josh Naylor. Josh Naylor, he's fallen by the wayside a little bit recently. Still, what, ridiculous, 45.7% hard hit, 501 expected slugging, but batting right around the 220 mark here now. Kyle Manzardo, he's a well-touted guy. 19.5-degree launch angle in a small ballpark looks pretty good.
I like the branding, in case anybody forgets your name, Eric Lindquist. We all your camera turned off. It just says Eric Lindquist.
Yep, got a million things open.
We really do need to get you a picture so that when your camera turns off.
I think Jordan has it. It's coming. It's coming, Jordan. I'm sure he's going to put it up there at some point.
What can we do? What can we do to get the Eric Clark picture up, or the Caitlin Lindquist picture? How can we make that show up whenever Eric's camera cuts off?
Absolutely not. Blasphemy.
Can we do that, Jordan? What was that showed up on screen?
It's me as Tinkerbell.
But it came and went so quickly. There it is. Yeah, just spank him a little bit. Can this animation play the entire time Eric's camera cuts off? I wouldn't mind that. Wouldn't mind that. I mean, it'd be hard to do a baseball show with an erection. That's weird. But I would enjoy that GIF coming up whenever your camera cuts off. Like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the only way you guys could see more of whatever the hell that was, or Caitlin Lindquist. There's lots of good stuff going on here when Eric's camera cuts off. So as far as these popular stacks go, Eric, are there any of them that you do not like that the field is getting to?
Yeah, Arizona's a little bit high for me. I'm not getting to them as much. I like the Dodgers. I'm okay with some of the ownership coming in on them. Philly is going up against Cutter Crawford, and I'm a little surprised to see them at like 6% ownership. Cutter Crawford's been pretty decent this season. We didn't talk about him earlier. It's just one of those classic tough matchups, but a really good pitcher so far. Cutter Crawford, I like a lot of what we've seen. 230 expected batting average, 34% hard hit, 397 expected slugging. Pretty decent stuff.
For me, it's the Cincinnati Reds, and it's just they're the 3rd most popular team on the slate, and we have them like middling top stack odds, like 4.4%. It's a team to be underweight to, in my opinion, and it's one that I don't feel great about because Tristan McKenzie has been not great this year, dealing with a partially torn UCL, but he has pitched better in the later stage of the season than he did early on when he opened the year and was just terrible, wasn't able to generate any kind of strikeouts. I don't have a ton of confidence in McKenzie going forward. I just don't think that this Cincinnati Reds team should be the 3rd most popular team on the slate.
No, they should not.
That's really all that
fair.
I'm pulling out of it is if I'm playing a popular offense, I would rather it be the Dodgers or the Yankees than the Reds by a pretty wide margin.
Yep, and we're pretty flat on Minnesota. Top Stacks Tool agrees with you there with Cincinnati, no doubt about it. I think the hitting conditions for the Dodgers today decent enough where I won't be writing them off despite the negative leverage, but Cincinnati, much easier to do. And Tristan McKenzie, despite the fact that we've seen some regression there, this is just not a lineup that you need to be prioritizing yourself with.
Any contrarian stacks outside of the White Sox that are important to you today?
Yeah, I was going to say the White Sox are my top 3 in sim ROI. So I'm going to have a lot more of the White Sox than what I was anticipating here. I think Texas is fantastic. I really like getting to Texas. Again, favorable hitting conditions, Dodger Stadium, relatively decent for power, and there's definitely that with a number of pieces here. I don't think we end up getting Corey Seager back in the lineup here today. We shall see. That lineup literally just dropped as soon as I said this. Simeon, Grossman, Garcia, Heim. Yep, no Corey Seager there at the top of it. So there's that, but it's going to be cheap. I mean, Robbie Grossman, they have, anytime he's facing a lefty there, he's usually batting up there second. It's always weird because he's a switch hitter, but they love him from the right side for whatever reason. Wyatt Langford up to 5th there. This isn't a very good lineup for Texas. Davis Wenzel, Letty Tavares there at the 9 hole, but 1 through 5, James Paxton's been awful this season. You and I agree that he is one of those guys that's going to be a candidate to get demoted at some point. 14.2% K rate, 12.9% walk rate, 361 x WOBA. I really like Adolis Garcia for tournaments.
So a couple of things. First, I don't know if you saw, but we are doing our Dinger Tuesday promotion. Do you see who my home run pick was today?
I did not.
Adolis Garcia.
Look at us go. Yeah, I really, really like Texas. Again, it's a bummer Corey Seager isn't making his return here to Dodger Stadium today, but I'll be okay with it if Texas can put up some runs because I will definitely be over on them.
If James Paxton has been pitching, I've been stacking against him in single entry as of late. It's just so clear that there's going to be a lot of regression, and it happened in a hurry. He had that start against the Reds where he just got absolutely battered. And yeah, based on his underlying numbers, I don't think we're going to get very many starts out of James Paxton going forward. He's just going to be so bad that he's not going to warrant holding a roster spot anymore. And I was going to be stacking the Rangers in single entry until the ownership on Diaz popped up. It was like, the way I play, this is just kind of the move I have to make. But yeah, I really do like stacking against Paxton as well. His velocity is down so much from his career low, like ridiculously, to the point where he's throwing 93.7 miles per hour. His average fastball velocity for his career, it's 95.6. He's never had a full season where he's ever been below, let's see. Yeah, he's never had a season below 95 until this year, and he's at 93.7. He does have a 4.19 ERA, but 5.34 expected ERA, 5.35 FIP. Eric had already pointed out the 14.2% strikeout rate, the 12.9% walk rate. There's no redeeming metrics at all when it comes to James Paxton. He's 35 years old. How many injuries has James Paxton had? Significant ones over the course of his career now. It's been a ton. So I know there was times he pitched okay last year, but it seems like it's the end of the road for James Paxton. I like stacking against him with the Texas Rangers, so I'm on the exact same page as you.
Yep, it's one of those contrarian stacks that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb, and I hope people kind of just forget. I had somebody the last night on my video wanted to point out and let it be known, James Paxton has been so much better at home here. Dodger Stadium is good for hitting, so I don't care about home road splits. I don't care about a 2.78 ERA at home, 5.23 on the road. He's only had 4 starts at home. So you add more starts to the portfolio. What is it? 4 of his last 5 starts have been on the road. I think he just starts to get shelled more and more and more. And James Paxton is probably not going to be a pitcher on the Dodgers at the end of the year.
Yep. And shout out to Chris Williams, who gifted out another 5 YouTube memberships. And yeah, for whatever reason, it went through this time, Chris. I saw your message in playback. So no explanation. I don't know anything about the internet or the inner workings of the YouTube gifting mechanics. So yeah, it sucks they only gifted out 3, but appreciate you by leaving some more of those in there. Let's anything else you want to add at stacks, Eric? If not, we'll do our home run picks for the night.
Nope, let's do home run picks.
All right. Guys, let us know in chat. Who are you guys picking at a home run today? And for myself and Eric, we'll do our dongs of the day right here. I already kind of spoiled what mine was. It's Adolis Garcia going up against James Paxton for all the reasons just outlined. I mean, James Paxton, no good, very bad pitcher this year. Lots of bad things coming to him in the future in terms of runs allowed. So I'm going with Adolis Garcia for my home run pick. Eric, who are you picking to go yard today?
5 implied run total, wind blowing out, 80 degrees, 40% humidity in Minnesota. I haven't picked a Minnesota Twin yet because, again, I'm not a homer. I generally pick on my Minnesota Twins at the right times, but we're going to go to Trevor Larnach leading off here for the Minnesota Twins today. The guy is absolutely a power threat every single time. We saw that at the beginning of last season. Cal Quantrill against lefties, only a 149 expected ISO, but I repeat, great hitting conditions for Minnesota today. And what is he at for the season? 233 expected ISO against right-handed pitching. Only 6 home runs against right-handed pitching. I expect that number to be much, much higher come season's end.
Let's see what we have from the YouTube chat for home run picks. And Jordan, I'm anxiously awaiting to see what you end up doing today. For some other people,
no.
Sports Guy 24 has got Heimer Candelario. We've got Free Scotty going Marcus Semien. Travis Duarte has got David Dahl. Michael Pavlik looks like he's taking a page out of Jordan Klein's textbook, going with Stephen Kwan. We've also got Junior Whopper going. Everybody's going David Dahl today. All right. Robert Greers has got Kyle Schwarber. Clintwood 83 is on my team here. Adolis Garcia as well. Pierre's got Marcus Semien. Demetrius Gorham said Ramirez. I assume that's Jose Ramirez. There's multiple Ramirez's in the MLB, but we'll assume that's Jose Ramirez. Let me see. Are there any other Ramirez hitters that are out there today?
I don't think so.
I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. No, there isn't. So
yeah, Tampa Bay was on the early
Demetrius,
one.
Chad Rock is going with Kirilov. We got Blake Moore's going with Alex Bregman. Charles Kelly has got O'Neill Cruz. We've got Humboldt 707 going with Alex Verdugo. Nate has got Paul DeYoung. Michael Roundtree's got 2 home run picks, Eugenio Suarez and Gabriel Moreno. Ryan Rennebaum has got also a double Don call for Royce Lewis today. Malukar's going with Kyle Schwarber. Then we got Will the Bill with Freddie Freeman. Anthony Harris has got Shohei Ohtani. And Jordan Klein, no home run pick today? What's up with that?
What's up with that? What's up with that?
All right, Jordan's going Shohei Ohtani. I'll do a write-in for him. Shohei Ohtani for Jordan Klein.
Oh, my God.
Good pick. I would like that. I think Ohtani's my most rostered individual hitter today. So home runs for Shohei Ohtani. Let's get it done. Guys, thank you very much for watching. If you've not done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Be on the lookout for all of our PGA content coming out tomorrow. We've also got the NBA show. NBA, there's going to be game 3 of the NBA Finals. So we got NBA content, NBA Live Before Lock, playback for the basketball game, playback for golf. So check it all out tomorrow. Have a great night, guys, and see you tomorrow.